Imagine this. One day, you stand in front of a mirror, staring at yourself for a few minutes. You see a familiar face, the one you've come to know well over the years. It feels familiar, but there's something subtly changing. You tell yourself, I know who I am. But do you really know? Do you truly understand the person staring back at you? Now, imagine that every person around you, even those you trust the most, their words are silently shaping you. Yes, even the seemingly insignificant comments, the offhanded advice, and even a casual complaint or praise. Have you ever thought that all these words are like invisible chisels, subtly carving away at something deep inside of you? Are they determining what you should do, who you should become? You often tell yourself, I don't care what others say, but do you really not care? If you think about it carefully, you might realize that your every word, every emotional reaction, seems to have the influence of others behind it. Have you ever asked yourself, is my life truly governed by me, or is it being subtly controlled by voices, beliefs, and expectations I've never even noticed? Have you considered that the world you live in is shaping every decision you make in ways you can barely notice? Those choices you make, so habitual, could they be carrying hidden suggestions from others? If these influences are quietly controlling you, how can you claim to be fully free? Every word you speak might just be helping to chart the course of your future. Perhaps right now, you're feeling a sense of confusion, even some discomfort about these questions. But are you really ready to face the unsettling truth? Your life is being shaped by every word you speak, every thought you entertain, every belief you hold, every action you take. Each word you utter is crafting the map of your life, guiding every step you take. You may ask, what does this really mean? What does it have to do with me? Yet beneath this question lies a profound philosophical paradox, one that might be precisely what you've been trying to avoid. Now, think about this. Can you truly control the words you speak? Can you control how these words, in turn, control your life? Every time you unconsciously talk about yourself, others, or the world, have you unknowingly accepted some form of mental manipulation, gradually losing control over your fate? Every word you say may become a chain that binds you in the future. You might think, this is just an abstract philosophical discussion. It doesn't affect me. But dear viewer, things are not that simple. Have you ever realized that your entire life is being pieced together by these words and thoughts, and behind them, hidden deep, are profound secrets? So, the question is, if you've never truly recognized these underlying influences, how can you ever break free from them? Here lies the ultimate question you must face. Are the words you speak truly your own, or have they already been silently shaping your life? I know, you may think this is too abstract, too deep, even difficult to believe. But please, hold on a little longer. Keep thinking, because the freedom you think you have might not entirely belong to you. Let's take a step deeper into this. You might still be wondering, how could the words I say have such power over my life? The answer lies in the very structure of your mind, your psyche, and the ways in which society has conditioned you. You see, at the core of this issue is a psychological concept that Carl Jung called the shadow self. The shadow consists of all those parts of your personality, thoughts, and desires that you refuse to acknowledge or repress because they don't feed the image of the person you want to be. These hidden aspects of yourself often manifest in the words you speak, the beliefs you hold, and the judgments you pass. Every time you talk about someone else, every time you criticize or praise, you're not just reflecting the world around you. You're reflecting the parts of you that you've either neglected or rejected. And the scary part is, you don't even realize you're doing it. Your inner world is governed by a complex interplay of conscious and unconscious processes. The conscious mind is where your logical thoughts, decisions, and actions reside. But the unconscious is a far more powerful force. It controls your automatic reactions, your emotional responses, and the beliefs you hold without even realizing it. And it is in this vast, invisible space that the words you speak take on an even darker significance. Have you ever noticed that you have a tendency to repeat certain phrases or patterns of thinking? Maybe you say things like, I'll never be good enough, or I always mess things up, without even thinking about it. You may say it lightly, or brush it off as an exaggeration, but these words are like seeds planted deep in your subconscious, which grow to define your future. These patterns become so ingrained that you start living them out. Your unconscious mind takes them as truths, and you act accordingly. You don't have to consciously say to yourself, I am a failure, because you've already repeated it enough times that your subconscious believes it as fact. The question is, how many of your current struggles or failures are the result of these unconscious declarations? This is where philosophy ties into psychology. especially when we look at the ideas of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche famously said, "Become who you are." What did he mean by that? It's not just a call for personal authenticity. It's a challenge to confront the very narratives you've been told about yourself. The problem is, most of us don't do this. Instead, we let the narratives of others' expectations, the judgments, the societal norms define who we think we are. You've been taught to become who society says you should be, not who you truly are at the core. The words that are spoken to you, about you, and by you shape your identity in profound ways. Jung saw the act of integrating the shadow, the act of accepting and owning every part of who we are as the path towards self-actualization. But in a society that constantly tries to mold you into something you're not, how can you ever hope to embrace the full spectrum of who you truly are? Then there's Arthur Schopenhauer, whose philosophy was built around the idea of human suffering and the will. He argued that the fundamental force driving all human action is the will to live, but it's a will that can never truly be satisfied. Our desires, our constant striving for something more, never stop, and it's this perpetual tension that leads to suffering. The words you speak, your complaints, desires, frustrations are all manifestations of this unrelenting will. But what happens when you continually express dissatisfaction with the world, when you speak about your life as though it's always lacking, always falling short? You reinforce the belief that you are never enough. Schopenhauer might argue that, in doing so, you are aligning yourself with the very force of suffering instead of freeing yourself from the cycle of desire and frustration. You become entrenched in it, trapped by your own words. Here's the deeper layer. You are not just affected by the words of others. You are also trapped by your own. Your language shapes not only how you see yourself, but also how you interact with the world around you. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre argued that we are condemned to be free, meaning that we are always responsible for our choices. In this context, every word you speak is a reflection of the choices you make in shaping your existence. Are you truly choosing your words, or are they choosing you? It's easy to say that the language you use doesn't matter, that it's just a form of expression. But consider this: when you constantly speak negatively about your life, others, or the world, aren't you just reinforcing a narrative that limits your potential? Every word you speak becomes part of the reality you create for yourself. Sartre's existentialism urges you to accept that you are the creator of your own essence. But if you don't take responsibility for the language you use, you're allowing that essence to be formed by forces beyond your control. The big question here is not just, what are you saying, but also who is really speaking. Are you speaking from your true, authentic self, or are you speaking from the conditioned layers of society, your family, or past experiences? The deeper you look into this, the more you realize how much you've allowed others, whether consciously or unconsciously, to shape your internal dialogue. The language you use might be a mask you wear to feed into the world, but it's also a cage that traps you from stepping into the life you truly desire. It's easy to blame society, your upbringing, or even the people around you for your struggles, but the deeper truth is this: your words, the language you use to describe yourself, your world, and your future, are what hold the most power over your destiny. You are the one speaking them, and you are the one who has to choose whether they will set you free or keep you locked in a prison of your own making. This leads us to an unsettling realization. The language you use is not just an expression of your thoughts. It is an extension of your power. So, why do we still speak in ways that diminish us? Why do we continue to let others define us? Why do we allow our shadows to control the words we speak and, in turn, our lives? The answer is hidden within the next chapter of this exploration, because understanding the depth of this problem is only the first step. The real work begins when you start to recognize the consequences of these words, not just for you, but for everything around you. And that's where the real awakening begins. By now, you may have started to grasp the implications of the words you speak, but there's more to this than just an awareness of how language shapes your internal dialogue. The true danger lies in how these words, these silent declarations, reverberate outward and influence not only your personal life, but the very structure of society itself. The unseen forces that govern your thoughts and actions are not limited to you, they extend outward in a web of interconnected consequences. Let's dive deeper. You see, the words we speak, whether they are spoken out loud or silently to ourselves, are not just echoes in an empty space. They are seeds that grow, becoming the very foundation of your thoughts, your behaviors, and ultimately, your identity. But here's the chilling truth: the consequences of these words often remain invisible. You may think your casual complaints about your life or your self-deprecating humor are harmless, but they are quietly building the world around you. shaping your reality in ways you cannot see. The subconscious mind is remarkably powerful. It absorbs everything, every word, every statement, every judgment, and makes it part of its operating system. And the scary thing is, it doesn't distinguish between constructive and destructive language. When you say things like, I can't do this or I'm not good enough, you are embedding a message deep within your psyche that will guide your decisions, actions, and even your emotions. But here's where it gets insidious. These messages don't stop with you. Every time you express your doubts, your frustrations, or your defeatist attitude, you're transmitting those same patterns to those around you. Have you ever noticed how one person's negativity can affect an entire room? One person complaining about their job, their relationships, or their life can bring the energy of an entire group down. This isn't just emotional contagion. It's a psychological contagion. You begin to project your inner world onto others. Your pessimism becomes their pessimism. Your defeatism becomes their defeatism. And before you know it, you're creating a ripple effect that shapes the collective consciousness around you. Now, take a step back and think about the broader societal structures that influence us. Cultural narratives, societal expectations, and even mass media constantly reinforce certain ways of thinking. They define success, beauty, happiness, and worth in narrow, often toxic terms. The language you consume through social media, television, news outlets, or even casual conversations contributes to this collective mindset. But have you ever wondered how much of this language is shaping you, rather than the other way around? Consider the societal expectations around success. For example, the idea that you must have it all by a certain age, or that happiness is defined by material wealth and status, is deeply ingrained in our culture. The words associated with success, ambitious, driven, hardworking, have a profound influence on your sense of self-worth. But what happens when you don't measure up to these expectations? What happens when your reality doesn't match these cultural ideals? You begin to internalize a sense of failure. And because the language around success is so pervasive, you may not even realize how much it's affecting your daily choices and sense of self. This is where cognitive biases come into play. Human beings are notorious for their ability to see the world through a distorted lens. We gravitate toward the language and ideas that validate our beliefs, while rejecting or ignoring anything that challenges them. Confirmation bias ensures that we only seek out information that supports the narratives we've already accepted. If you've ever felt stuck in a rut or trapped by your own limitations, it's not necessarily because you lack ability or motivation. It's because the words you've been speaking to yourself and the ones others have spoken to you have created a self-fulfilling prophecy. But the impact doesn't stop with individual lives. Social structures, driven by collective language, can perpetuate entire systems of inequality, discrimination, and injustice. If the language around power, privilege, and success is limited to certain groups or ideals, those who don't feed into those boxes are left marginalized. Language shapes policies, shapes narratives about who belongs and who doesn't, who is worthy and who is not. When you speak or hear terms like success or failure or acceptable or undesirable, they are not just abstract concepts. They are loaded with years of societal conditioning. So, when you speak negatively about yourself or others, when you buy into these culturally ingrained ideas about who you should be or how your life should look, you are contributing to a much larger pattern. It's not just your personal life at stake. The very fabric of society, its values, its expectations, its biases influenced by the collective language we use. You might think that the words you speak are harmless, but in truth, they are small but powerful forces that help shape the world around you. This brings us to a question that is both profound and uncomfortable. What kind of world are you helping to create with the language you use? Are you building a world of possibility, hope, and self-empowerment, or are you reinforcing the walls of limitation, inequality, and fear? Here's the truly unsettling part. You can't see these consequences immediately. These invisible forces play out over time, subtly weaving themselves into your life and the collective life of society. And by the time you realize the impact they've had, it might be too late to undo them. The language you speak doesn't just impact your emotional state or your self-esteem. It shapes your destiny. If you don't become aware of this, you could easily find yourself living a life dictated by unconscious narratives that you've been passively accepting your entire life. In the next section, we'll explore how to break free from this cycle, how to reclaim the power of your words, and how to begin reshaping your life and your world. But before we do that, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what kind of reality have I created with the words I've spoken up to now? And more importantly, What reality do I want to create moving forward? Now that you've seen the invisible threads that connect your words to your fate, it's time to ask yourself the most crucial question of all. How do you break free from this? If you've been living in a world that's shaped by language, be the words you've spoken, the narratives you've internalized, and the expectations you've accepted, how can you start taking back control? The answer is simple, but not easy. You must first become conscious of your words. Awareness is the key to breaking free. You see, it's easy to get caught in the habit of speaking unconsciously, of repeating old patterns without ever questioning them. But the moment you become aware of what you're saying, whether it's out loud or in the privacy of your thoughts, you begin to gain control over them. Awareness is the first step in shifting from being a passive participant in your life to being an active creator of it. Step 1. Become the observer of your language. Start by noticing the language you use in daily life. Pay attention to the words that flow out of your mouth without thinking. What do you say about yourself? What do you say about others? What do you say about the world? Are your words full of hope and possibility, or are they steeped in frustration, resignation, or negativity? This exercise requires a level of self-awareness that many people avoid. It's much easier to continue on autopilot, repeating the same phrases and thoughts you've always had. But if you want to break free, you must confront the uncomfortable truth that many of the words you use are not your own. They are inherited, shaped by your upbringing, your culture, and the people around you. So, ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped using these words? What would happen if I stopped reinforcing this narrative? As you start paying closer attention to your language, you likely uncover certain patterns, words that you use regularly to define yourself or others. These words may reflect deep-seated beliefs about who you are, what you deserve, and how the world works. For example, you might frequently say things like, "I'm not good enough," "this is too hard," or "I'll never succeed." These words reflect a fixed mindset, a belief that your abilities and circumstances are unchangeable. Step 2. Reframe your narrative. Once you've observed your language and become aware of these limiting patterns, the next step is to reframe your narrative. This is where the real power lies. To do this, you must actively replace the words that diminish you with words that empower you. For instance, instead of saying, "I'll never succeed," try saying, "I may face challenges, but I have the ability to overcome them." Instead of, "I'm not good enough," try, "I am constantly evolving and growing." Reframing your language isn't about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring your flaws. It's about shifting your focus to what you can control and the possibilities ahead of you. The famous philosopher Nietzsche taught that we must become who we are, but in order to do this, we need to create ourselves. He believed that true freedom comes not from following the path laid out by society, but from forging our own path that reflects our deepest desires and values. In practical terms, this means that you must take responsibility for the language you use in the stories you tell about yourself. The words you speak don't just describe reality, they create it. Step 3. Reclaim your power. Now that you're consciously reframing your words, it's time to fully reclaim your power. This means stepping into your role as the architect of your own life. You may have spent years allowing other people's words to dictate your decisions, but now you must decide to take control. How do you do this? It starts with setting boundaries, not just with other people, but with yourself. Every time you catch yourself using limiting language, take a pause. Ask yourself, is this true? Does this serve me? If it doesn't, replace it with a new thought, a new phrase, one that moves you toward your goals rather than away from them. You don't have to do this perfectly. The goal is not to erase every negative thought, but to become conscious of it and choose a more empowering response. Over time, this process will build momentum. The more you speak positively, the more you will begin to believe those words. Your identity will shift, your reality will shift, and you will begin to experience life differently. Step 4. Surround yourself with empowering language. Reclaiming your power also means surrounding yourself with language that empowers you. The people you spend time with, the media you consume, the books you read, all of these influence your mindset and language. Pay attention to the messages you're absorbing. Are they positive and uplifting, or do they reinforce limiting beliefs? The words of others have a significant impact on your subconscious mind. If you constantly listen to people who speak in negative or judgmental ways, you will internalize their language. Similarly, if you expose yourself to content that is filled with negativity or fear, you are training your mind to adopt those same perspectives. On the other hand, when you engage with content that inspires you, challenges you, or helps you grow, you feed your mind with language that expands your potential. The philosopher Sartre talked about the importance of existential freedom, the idea that you are always free to choose how you respond to the world. Reclaiming your power through language is an act of existential freedom. It is your choice to speak words that lift you up and move you towards your highest potential. Step 5. Embrace the practice of self-awareness. Finally, you must embrace a practice of self-awareness. The work doesn't end once. You start reframing your language. It's a lifelong process. Continue to observe the words you use, challenge the narratives you've been told, and take responsibility for the impact your language has on your reality. This is how you begin to break free from the cage of limiting beliefs and step into a new, empowered version of yourself. The power of small words. The small words you speak each day may seem insignificant, but over time, they accumulate into something far greater. Each word you speak is a brick in the wall of your reality. If you keep speaking from a place of fear, negativity, or self-doubt, you are building a wall that will trap you. But if you choose to speak words of empowerment, possibility, and self-love, you are building a bridge to the life you want to create. As you start making these shifts, you may encounter resistance from within yourself and from others. But remember, every great change in history begins with a single shift in perspective. You are the author of your own story, and it starts with the words you choose to speak. This is your moment to break free from the chains that have been holding you back. You've seen the consequences of your words. Now, it's time to make a choice. Will you continue to live a life dictated by external forces, or will you step into your power and create a new reality, one word at a time? That choice is yours. As you move forward in your journey of reclaiming your words and your power, something becomes crystal clear. The ultimate truth that has been hidden beneath all the layers of conditioning, social norms, and self-doubt is this: you are the creator of your reality. Yes, you are. It is easy to believe that the world happens to you, that circumstances control your life, or that you are the result of everything that's ever been said or done to you. It's comfortable to adopt the mindset that your fate is something set in stone, something you can't alter. But this belief is the very trap that keeps you locked in a cycle of self-defeat. The truth is, the moment you realize that you are the one who creates your life through the words you speak, the thoughts you think, and the actions you take, you unlock the greatest power you possess. It's no coincidence that philosophers like Sartre and Nietzsche have emphasized the importance of taking full responsibility for your existence. Sartre believed that you are condemned to be free. Freedom is not just a gift, it's a burden. It's a responsibility that lies at the core of your human condition. You cannot escape the responsibility of creating your own meaning and purpose. Nietzsche, too, urged us to embrace the struggle of life and to create our own values and path, rather than follow the herd. But it's not just about philosophy. The deeper, psychological realization that you create your reality is rooted in something much more tangible. The words you speak shape your internal world, and in turn, the world shapes your external reality. Every word you utter, whether you're speaking to yourself or others, carries weight. Your words are not simply labels or expressions. They are the lenses through which you view the world. They shape your perceptions, they color your experiences, and they even influence the opportunities you see or fail to see. Your words literally shape the way you experience reality. The consequences of this realization are profound. When you understand that the language you use defines your world, you begin to see that you have far more control over your life than you've ever allowed yourself to believe. You are not bound by fate or circumstance, nor are you the victim of the world around you. Instead, you are the master of your own destiny, the creator of your own path. Here's the most empowering part of this realization. You don't need permission from anyone else to begin this transformation. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment, the right set of circumstances, or the approval of others. You can start this change right now. With the words you speak, it begins with shifting your internal dialogue, with changing how you speak to yourself and the world around you. When you start speaking in alignment with the life you want to create, something miraculous happens. The universe begins to shift to meet you at that frequency. This isn't some abstract concept or new age rhetoric. This is the power of manifestation, grounded in the deep psychological truth that your thoughts and words have the ability to bring your intentions to life. When you align your inner language with your desires, you create the conditions for those desires to manifest in the physical world. This process of transformation is ongoing. It's not a one-time event. It's not as simple as changing a few words and expecting everything to fall into place. But when you begin to use language that affirms your power, your potential, and your freedom, you'll start to see subtle shifts. Your life will begin to reflect back to you the changes you've made inside. You'll notice more opportunities, more synchronicities, and a deep sense of empowerment that was previously absent. The final truth that you must accept is that the story you tell about yourself is the most important story you will ever write. It is not just the words you speak aloud to others, but the words you speak internally to yourself. What do you say when no one else is listening? What do you say to yourself when faced with a challenge? How do you respond to the voice of doubt inside your head? The most liberating thing you can do is to start telling a new story, one where you are the hero, the creator, and the force of your own destiny. You may not be able to control the world around you, but you can always control your words, your thoughts, and the way you choose to interpret the events of your life. And with this power, you can rewrite your reality. So, take a moment to pause and reflect. How will you speak from this moment forward? What kind of story will you tell about yourself, your potential, and your future? Will you continue to live according to the limiting narratives that have shaped you? Or will you choose to speak a new truth, a truth that empowers, uplifts, and propels you toward the life you were always meant to lead? This is the ultimate freedom, to speak into existence the life you desire, and with the power, anything is possible. The words you speak today will shape the world you live in tomorrow. Choose them wisely, choose them with intention, and choose them with the knowledge that you are the creator of your own reality. This is your life, your story, and it begins with the words you speak.